If you're planning to buy a new home in Calgary or anywhere in Alberta for that matter, this is a video you absolutely have to watch, especially before you end up signing any contract. In all my years of working in Calgary real estate, the number of times I see buyers just straight up walk into a sales office or show home without being completely prepared is genuinely alarming. And this is because they do not realize that buying a new home is completely different from buying a resale property. There are different contracts, different costs, different risks, and different rules to play by. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 common mistakes that I see buyers make when they buy new construction, and most of them are very easily avoidable. We're going to cover everything from contract traps, financing, to the GST situation, and then what exactly happens in that design studio and everything else. So obviously, this is not a 10-minute overview. It is going to be a very detailed guide you will absolutely need. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and we're going to go through all of it together. So let's start with why does this specifically matter for Calgary right now? Looking at the stats and the different figures right here, you can see that 1 in 3 homes that Canadians home purchases are actually brand new builds. And that's a massive portion of the market. Calgary and Edmonton actually saw record high housing starts in 2025. And that was at the same time that Toronto and Vancouver were on their downturn. So Calgary is a building city right now. New communities are going up all over south, north, southeast. Now, that's great for supply because that is the problem we had a few years before. However, it also means there are thousands of people signing new construction contracts every single month without fully understanding what they're actually getting into. Now, the average cost of mistakes that I've seen buyers make is up to $50,000 and more. And this is because a lot of small things quickly add up along the way, all the way from signing contract to things that you've ignored along the way and not accounted for how things are going to change in the future. Which then brings me to my next point, where this is the one that surprises people the most, is because new construction, from the time you actually sign your contract, takes about 1 to 3 years to actually end up getting possession. And that means there's a lot of time for a lot of things to go wrong along the way. Buyers who come through this process smoothly and understanding everything they need to do beforehand are the ones that do well. And that's what this video is for. Now let's take a look at first, what is new builds versus resale? What are the fundamental differences that you need to know about so that you're not operating under the wrong context? So on the new construction side, you are buying from plans. You're not buying a finished product. So it is very hard to imagine, even though you go into the show homes and you look at these amazing, fully finished interior design homes, and then they show you the materials that you potentially can put into your home. But you can't really visualize how everything is really going to feel when you're living in that space. Purchase contracts on the new build side is written by their lawyers for the builder. This is not written in favor for the buyers. The GST 5% applies on top of the sales price. That is different from resale. Possession can be anywhere from 6 to 18 months away. The design studio upgrades can add $10,000 to $80,000 on top of your original purchase price. And so you have to be fully aware what they're advertising online versus what you're actually ending up to sign for. Mortgage rate hold strategies are completely different on new home size versus resale. The Alberta mandatory warranty, so the 1, 2, 5, 10 years, something you absolutely need to read into, understand what your responsibilities are and how this is built to protect you and how to safeguard yourself against the builder. And then finally, living in a construction zone post possession. Most people just take that for granted and take it very lightly, but they don't realize the real consequences of that. As far as resale home go, you basically getting exactly what you see. Standard Realtors Association contracts, which are 6 pages compared to the 60 pages that you normally get on the builder side. There's no GST, it's just legal and title transfer costs. Your typical possession days go between 30 to 60 days. You negotiate on price, not on upgrades for resale. Of course, standard is the 90 to 120 day rate hold. So that is the standard mortgage application that you will get for a resale side. And then buyer be aware, there is no mandatory warranty. In fact, we have something called buyer be aware, which is once you pass on the property to the buyer is expected to have done all due diligence to make sure that everything is caught through the inspection and everything is negotiated into the contract. And then after that point, if they have been negligent for anything, that falls on the buyer's side, unless there was something that's not disclosed but within the knowledge of the seller. And then you have established communities with existing amenities. And this is a massive, massive upside for resale homes. So that is a clear distinction between the two and the mindset you need to have getting into this. Now let's look at the new build process, what actually happens between signing and possession, where most buyers end up getting blindsided. So right here, first is picking the right builder. You need to verify the builder license. Now, generally, a lot of large builders like Hopewell, Sterling Homes, they're obviously verified builders, but oftentimes you will go with an infill property or you will go with smaller construction projects of names you have never heard of. It is extremely important to check reviews, check license, check the warranty provider, and check how these homes are being done. Visit completed builds. Don't just go off paperwork and sitting at a desk with the representative and trying to imagine what the home is like. Always ask for finished homes, probably even in a different community. You want to see a 2 to 3 year old home in established phases to see how they've held up over time, because everything like can look good day one, but you want to see how things last. The other thing you want to do is you want to talk to actual current homeowners. You want to knock on doors in the builder's existing communities. And now this can be super intimidating. This is something I can do for you as your realtor. But did they actually hit the possession date? How was the warranty service so far? What's the experience? What's the communication service been like? And would they buy again with the same builder? You want to know what you're signing up for and research warranty provider. So not all warranty providers are equal. Some builders actually use third-party providers with different coverage limits and claim processes. Now, here's something to keep in mind. It is not a rule set in stone, but some Calgary outer suburb builders are relatively new and they have shorter track records. So, for example, of course, when you have a surge in the amount of demand that we've seen, it brings a lot of need for new supply, and then you get a lot of new builders come out of the woodworks. And so sometimes communities like Rangeview, Glacier Ridge, or Hotchkiss, they've seen rapid builder activity. Now, a lot of those builders, I do know them firsthand, but there's also some big builders, big names that I would completely ward you off. So that's what you get when you work with a realtor that has that knowledge. But you have to watch their reputation data. And so builder quality varies significantly even within the same price tier. Price is not really a good proxy for workmanship. So you can't just say because a certain property is significantly cheaper that that property is going to be of a lower quality. Sometimes certain builders operate very differently in terms of with the way they source materials, the way they do their design work, and so they're able to provide those savings onto you, but their workmanship is absolutely amazing. So there's different ways different builders operate, and that is absolutely something you need to be aware of. Now, something else is builder red flag checklist. This is what you need to watch out for. So pressure to sign on the exact same day that you walk in. Turn around, open that door, and never walk back in. Because legitimate builders don't need to create urgency. They're a push to lock in today as a final discount that is only applied over a certain weekend, or oh, it's a spring discount for this one weekend because now the snow is melting. That is absolutely not realistic. It is just a tactic. And I promise you, you go back next weekend, we can get you that same discount because at the end of the day, builders do want to sell. Now, there's no assigned lawyer review period. So reputable builders will at least offer you a 48-hour window for legal review. Now, you don't always need this. Depends on the builder, depends on how comfortable you are with the contract. And a lot of those clauses, I have seen literally everything, all those contracts from different builders. and I'm very easily able to explain all those clauses to you, of course, without any legal liability. Because at the end of the day, you should still get a lawyer if that is something you are interested in. But one thing to keep in mind is every single builder designs their contract completely different. So it's not like a resale contract. And so there are different phrases that you need to be aware of in terms of legal terms. And this more so applies to pre-sale homes. When you're going for generally new construction, there's a lot lesser liability that you're taking on because it is a home that you can actually walk into, see with determined timelines. Now, vague possession date language. So summer 2026 is not really a possession date. You really want a specific month or couple months. The last thing you need is a builder to tell you that it's going to be ready anywhere between 6 to 10 months. That does nothing for you. Broad material substitution rights. This is very, very important. So some contracts actually allow the builder to swap any finish, texture, material for a comparable alternative along the way. Again, this applies to pre-sale entirely at their own discretion. So this is one clause you want to watch out for, and you want to have safeguards in place to have some say in potentially what that swap is going to be. Builder only out clause. Some contracts give the builder the right to cancel for cost increases, financing issues, or construction conditions, while you cannot. And this is more important now than ever because of the high amount of inflation that we are seeing, the war that's going on, and how that's impacting the steel industries here and the lumber industry. And so all of those materials are what's going to go into building your home over the next 1-2 years if it's not a pre-construction. And if any of those costs change, builders hold the right to be either get out or increase the cost to an extent. So you want to be aware of all of that. No pre-possession warranty documentation. So always ask for full warranty details before signing up. Home completion insurance must be in place. The Alberta mandate is up to 100,000 of deposit protection for new builds. Now the purchase agreement, step 2. So what you're actually signing. This is not a standard realtor's contract like I was saying before, which we apply to resale homes. It is written for the builders by the builder's lawyer for the builder's benefit. And so what the contract actually covers is generally things like purchase price, lot details, the deposit structure, finishes and specifications, estimated possession date, and upgrade pricing schedule, and all the warranty details. Out of these, what are the clauses that actually favor the builder? Broad delay major rights. So if construction is significantly delayed, this protects the builder to an extent. Material substitution rights, like I mentioned before, substitution materials that are then not available. Builder cancellation rights, high interest charges for your delays. And if you thought banks are charging you high interest for certain types of loans, wait till a builder sends you the bill. Tight color upgrade decision deadlines and unilateral design/layout changes. So all of these favor the builder and puts you on the tightrope for meeting these deadlines, because if you don't, the builder then holds rights to do whatever they want in those situations. Now, what you should add is solicitor approval. So getting a lawyer to check those contracts specifically for pre-sales, not necessarily quick possessions, specific possession date guarantees, delay compensation language. So if the builder, it's understood that sometimes construction can be delayed. But if there is a delay, how are you being compensated? How are you being protected? Material substitution approval rights, assignment right if needed. Now, this is a big Ontario thing. It started coming here, but builders still don't like it in Calgary. And then finally, a cap on closing cost adjustments. So you want to make sure there's no surprise costs in 2-3 years when you're finally actually closing on that property. And then all of a sudden, you have a bill at your door. Now, contract deep dive. So like I was saying, the delay force majeure clause, what is that? So builders typically exclude all liability for construction delays, including weather, so act of God essentially, supply shortages, labor issues, or any circumstances that is beyond their control. This means if the delay is caused to you, you will lose your rate hold, you'll pay for temporary housing, you'll incur storage costs, and miss school enrollment. The builder owes you nothing under most standard contracts. The material substitution clause Most contracts allow the builder to substitute any material, finish, or fixture with a comparable alternative at their discretion. So this is how buyers end up with different flooring, different cabinet hardware, and different appliance brand than what they originally picked in the design center. Unless you negotiate specific language requiring your approval for substitutions, you may have no recourse against the builder. The builder cancellation clause. Many contracts contain a unilateral right for the builder to actually cancel the deal if costs increase beyond a certain point, financing becomes unavailable, or construction conditions change, often returning only your deposit. You, meanwhile, have no equivalent right in rising cost environments, tariffs, labor costs. This asymmetrical balance between you and the builder is particularly important to negotiate. Now, the interest penalty clause. So, builder contracts typically carry two interest rates. So, a standard rate if the builder can't deliver title, and a much, much higher rate that is charged the buyer for any delays on the buyer side. So, for example, if your financing is not in order, these penalty rates can be significant. Read the exact numbers before signing. Now, step 3, financing a new build. So, mortgages for new construction work slightly different. So, initially, you start shopping for a rate, and then you sign contract. Your most standard rate holds are between 90 to 120 days at most. Big banks sometimes can offer you 6 to 12 months for rate holds on new bills, but usually at a premium. And then construction phases. So originally rate hold likely expires. By the time you're going through construction, especially if you're going past that 10-month period, nobody's going to give you a rate hold that long. So then you need to refresh your approval closer to possession. You lock in your final mortgage rate, and completion mortgage kicks in at possession. And then possession day, mortgage is fully funded, keys are released, and your move-in clock begins. So what exactly is your mortgage risk, and how can it go wrong? So you sign a purchase contract for a home within a 12-month build timeline. Your broker gets you at 120-day hold. 4 months pass, your rate hold expires. So the home isn't even close to being done yet. And then interest rates have risen. You must now qualify at a higher rate. So that is also the point you want to keep in mind. You do not want to be fully stretching your budget if it's a pre-sale home, because you want some buffer in case any of those variables change. It could be on the side of your job, it could be the rate, it could be just the overall regulations with the bank. There's so many things that can change that can really, really affect what you qualify for. Now, the worst case is you no longer qualify and you can exit the contract without losing your initial deposit. How do you protect yourself? Ask your bank or broker for about 6 to 12 months builder rate holds. So this is usually only available through major banks. You negotiate a float down provision. So if the rate drops before possession, you're obviously going to get the lower rate. And then some builders have preferred lender relationships with extended hold arrangements, but these are very, very specific. Now, never let your mortgage approval expire without refreshing it. Do this 120 days before an expected possession. Watch your financial situation. Changing jobs or taking on new debt between signing and possession can disqualify you. Now, finally getting to the meat of it, what exactly are those 10 biggest mistakes that you need to be aware of that I've seen buyers make over and over again? This is the heart of the video. It is the main content section, and it's going to be extremely valuable because each one of these makes you lose a lot of money along the way. And for the most part, a lot of these are really not even reversible. Before we get started on mistake number 1, I'm going to put 2 QR codes right here on the screen. One is for a community guide, and one is just for a buyer guide that it goes extensively into all the communities, all the affordability that you can potentially have, and the things you need to keep in mind when picking a neighborhood, how Calgary is designed. And this is extremely helpful if you are a first-time buyer within Calgary, or for the neighborhood guide if you're looking to move from another city into Calgary but have no idea how the city is designed. and the things you need to keep in mind, what the vibe is for actually living in there. I even have reviews from actual people that live in those communities in that guide. That's how in detailed it goes, and it gives you a full holistic perspective into understanding how Calgary is designed. Now, without further ado, if you've grabbed those two guides, let's go into point number one as the top biggest mistake that I see in new construction: not having your own realtor. Ironic, isn't it? But watch why I say this is important, because you will be surprised what most people don't realize, why realtors play a huge, massive role in your new construction process. First of all, understanding the fact that the builder's sales rep is actually not your agent. They completely work for the builder. They know things that they cannot tell you. They're aware of market comparables. They're aware of what other builders in that exact same area are selling their properties for, how they're supposed to be more competitive. They have sales meetings every week to correct their prices or to add more incentives. It is purely sales driven. And at the end of the day, they're going to pull maximum dollar value and protect the builder at all costs. So the person sitting across the desk only has one job: sell your home at the highest possible price with the fewest possible liabilities to the builder. So they will rush you past conditions you should be asking for, downplay unfavorable contract clauses, not proactively point out any red flags in the contract, prioritize same day signing over doing your due diligence. So that thing that I spoke about where they're like, you sign today, we're going to give you a certain amount off. I promise you that was just a marketing budget they had. But guess what? Now they are locked in. So you do not want to fall for any of these. In Calgary, buyers have actually been locked into contracts with serious deficiencies: cracked foundations, substitution materials, missed possession dates, and all at the cost of the buyer because they had no one reviewing the deal on their behalf. So while the lawyer goes through the contract in terms of all your legal obligations and financial responsibilities, the agent goes at it from the market dynamics approach, understanding what it will take for you to get the best deal you can while protecting your interests, and not just buying a home, but buying your home, a home that is best suited for what you're looking for, you and your family in the near future. So what a buyer's agent actually does for you: reviews the contract before you sign, flags any harmful clauses, knows which Calgary builders have a history of delays and warranty issues. Trust me, I know a lot. Has access to VIP pre-launch pricing. So because we have connections with the people in the sales office, we usually are always in touch. We get pricing sheets well before they're released to the public. We know what's coming up in the future or where they're shifting their construction plans towards, depending on what's selling right now. So things like that. Negotiate upgrades, credits, closing costs, having a full understanding of what something really costs to the builder, how they can provide it to you for cheaper, and depending on which stage in the process you are, what are the maximum benefits we can get from for you from the builder without the builder really having much reason to deny you, because that's what works for them in that phase. And this literally costs you nothing. So builders actually are the ones that have to pay the cooperating commission for the agents. I still meet a lot of buyers that think that they have to pay the commission to an agent to represent them, but they don't realize it's a free service. Attending pre-delivery inspection with you. So after seeing thousands of homes, literally having walked through that pre-delivery inspection with you, you bet I'm going to be calling out things that you might just take for granted or overlook. After that, advocates for you if issues arise during or after construction. So my service with you does not end only at construction, because we have those relationships set up with those sales offices and those builders, and we know how much that reputation matters to them because we bring them more business. We may hold them to that. We hold them accountable to that. And so if any issues arrive even after construction, we help you navigate those, how to file for the Alberta warranty, things like that. So we are always on your side and representing your best interest. Second mistake. The second mistake is most people fall in love with the home. But everything that you see in a model show home is always an upgrade. And it seems obvious, but it's so important to keep in mind because it is very hard for people to visualize when you strip away all those upgrades, fundamentally what the home looks like. And I've seen buyers go from show homes and then we walk into something that's a quick possession, and all of a sudden they're completely thrown off, and all this impression that they had of the builder, they just start questioning like what the quality of the finishes are and everything, even though it's just basically the upgrades have been stripped away. So you have to realize that the model home is fully loaded. Every finish, texture in the show home is top tier upgrades, and it goes up to like 80, 100,000 in upgrades sometimes. The base home you purchase will look significantly different from what you've toured. Upgrades are the builder's biggest profit center because they are able to get all these materials in wholesale prices, but then sell it to you at close to market. And they will make it look like it's pretty appealing because it's still slightly below market, but they are getting wholesale prices. It's almost like how when you go to a cinema, a lot of the money that's made in a cinema is because you buy popcorn and drinks. It's not because literally of the movie. So it's very similar when you go to buy a show home or when you go to buy a new construction, you're actually going to be spending a lot more money and profit for the builder on those upgrades. For example, an 8,000 granite countertop, which is a fair amount to think as a market value, actually cost the builder probably just $4,000 because they buy that in bulk. And multiply that across dozens of buyers, you see how that works. You can negotiate upgrade pricing. So if you know how to do that, usually there is no room to negotiate on base price if you're going completely pre-sale because it's so far in advance, there's very little room for them to move. But because the home is completely not done and they are going to have tradespeople in those areas for the next couple months till construction's done anyway, that is what you want to leverage. So understanding that the upgrade package is actually negotiable. Larger upgrade orders have more leverage. So, for example, if you do a 50,000 upgrade, you could probably knock 10K off that, or maybe sometimes, depending on what you've picked, even 15K, because they're getting a lot of those appliances in bulk. It costs them almost nothing to just add an additional one to the order. Now, how does the upgrade profit model work? Like you see, granite counters normally will charge you about 8 to 10,000, depending on the size of the kitchen and the counter size. But builders will usually pay half of that, so $4,000. Hardwood flooring is also about $10,000 for like an entire floor, right? One single level. Builders will get that done at $6,000 because again, they have those tradespeople already there. Upgraded kitchen cabinets, you pay about $9,000. Builders are only paying about $4,000. And to ensure tile upgrades, so ensuite tile upgrades is about $5,000 if you want it entirely done. The builder cost is really only $2,500. So what you want to do is land somewhere in between, where of course the builder is not going to give up their profits too much because that's their meat of the business. But what you want to do is then negotiate how much off you can get as a large amount across all the upgrades. And now the larger your upgrade package, of course, the more discounts you can negotiate. And then this is extremely, extremely important. The same rule you use when you walk into a Costco is this rule you need to apply when you buy new construction. Come in with a firm budget ceiling before you go to the design session. It is so easy to get carried away, and before you know it, you've spent double of what you originally expected. So come in with a firm budget and then work more towards how you're going to allocate that money towards different upgrades based on what's important to you. Mistake number 3 is not accounting for GST. So most buyers forget that on top of the base price, especially given now how some builders advertise their pricing because of the GST rebate, which we will talk about, is they do not necessarily display their GST in their marketing. So I have buyers come to me and be like, this townhome is worth 400. And then unfortunately I have to give them the bad news that there's another 20,000 on top of that, and they're not first time buyers, so they can't claim a rebate. And now they have to pay 420 instead. So in terms of a lot of marketing that goes out there from builders, sometimes that does not include GST. And so that is something you want to be aware of. Always figure out and make sure that is the purchase price and then what the GST is on that. So however, new in 2025, first-time buyers now may eliminate up to $50,000 in GST on new homes, up to $1 million in purchase price, and then agreements signed on or after March 20th. So if you bought after March 20th, that's when it counts. Let's take a look at more details. So right here, you can see for under $1 million, up to $50,000, full GST for first-time buyers. If you go between 1 million to 1.5 in purchase price, you get a partial rebate. So it's actually a gradual decline. So 100% up to $1 million. And then on the 1.5 million range, it's 0%. So just essentially that percentage up to a cap again of 50,000. And then over 1.5 million, your standard GST applies. There's actually no relief available. So these are primarily targeted at first-time buyers to increase the affordability. And this is a brand new thing that just received royal assent in March 2026. And to qualify, you must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. You have not owned a primary residence before. You are purchasing it as your primary residence. Your purchase agreement is signed after March 20th, like I said. And you and your spouse have not previously received the first-time homebuyer GST rebate. Now, mistake number 4 is treating your possession date as a guarantee. So people start planning everything in their lives around that possession date given on pre-construction. But you need to, if it's not a quick possession, you need to be aware of this. Give notice to the landlord based on possession days is a mistake you make. Booking movers 6 months in advance, enrolling children into schools, selling their current home conditional on the new possession, or locking in an interest rate without a builder rate hold. Then the possession date moves, say, by 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. The contract does allow it, and the buyer just has no alternative rather than run around in panic and try to figure out how they're going to handle those few months of their life. So what smart buyers actually do in the situation is plan finances around an earliest and a latest. So you need to have a contingency plan. Negotiate month-to-month lease on your current home if possible. Budget for at least 1 to 3 months of transition housing costs. And it gets even worse if you're moving out of province. That requires significant amount of planning because now there is enrolling your kids into school and all of that. Don't give notice at your current home until possession is confirmed by the builder in writing. Negotiate delay compensation clauses into contract before signing. This is very, very important. In Calgary's climate, seasonal delays are common. So depending on how the weather shifts, there are certain things that just can't be done in the winter months. So winter starts typically include extra buffer. A May possession can quickly become August with no penalty to the builder. Now, the real cost of possession delays, like really understanding the numbers and figuring out how that works. So for example, just temporary housing for 3 months could end up costing you at the low end $4,500, and on the high end, you're looking at $12,000 in additional costs. Storage unit, now you've moved out, you have nowhere to put your things. For on the low end, about 150 per month, you're looking at 450 for those 3 months. On the high end, you're looking at about 1,200. Rate hold expiry at a higher rate, 5,000 on the low end, and 25,000 on your whole mortgage on the high end. Your moving cost times 2, so interim, so you need to move 2 times now. So 1,500 on the low end, 4,000 on the high end. The number of days you're going to lose either working and the disruptions that are caused, and then utility charging you twice. So your total range of delays can be anywhere between 12 to 48,000. That is why this is not something you want to take lightly, and you absolutely want to look into what clauses are talking about delays. Now, mistake number 5. New homes, it's brand new, so why would you need an inspection, right? Like I've actually had buyers say that so many times. They just accept that because it's a new build, it's expected to be perfect. But new homes can and do have defects, and I promise you, it's getting worse. So older homes are actually far more stable and better fundamentally when you look at the just the build quality overall and the level of finishes, and they hold up better over the years just because the materials that have been used. Now, as we get hit by inflation and everything, the types of materials that are used and the disconnect between the different trades, I've seen so many things go wrong. So builders are human at the end of the day. Even reputable ones make mistakes. And if it's not documented, you absolutely have no recourse against the builder. So you do need to do a proper inspection. Quick story time. I had one new construction where literally on the day of possession, because of an issue we found during inspection, we had to have someone from the builder running a jackhammer on the floor of the basement to move where the plumbing had to be. That was so that we could get essentially the city permit to, because they also need to apply for the city permit for it to be counted as a livable property and to give you a valid possession. But of course, the inspector came by, didn't like what he saw. We had to move things around. So we were literally throwing rocks out the side of the home as I was bringing gifts for the possession. And you can imagine the scare that the buyers got, the panic that ensued, and it was 7 to 8 hour ordeal. I essentially spent the entire day at that home to ensure that they were actually able to get the keys and we were able to push the papers through the city and get a conditional possession certificate. So a lot of things can go wrong, and that's why very, very important. So pre-delivery inspection, this happens before possession. This is mandatory. So you walk the entire home systematically with your builder's rep. You test every appliance, switch, faucet, outlet, door, every single thing. Photograph every scratch, dent, gap, incorrect installation. Every deficiency must be on the PDI report, and verbal acknowledgments is worthless. He say, she say just does not fly with the builder. The PDI report is the legal baseline for all future warranty claims. Do not let the builder rush you through this. Take as long as you need. Consider bringing a builder savvy friend or your realtor to this, because then we can pass on all that knowledge of what should be the standard of something being functional and working, and make sure it is put in there. So pre-warranty expiry inspection. So this is when you're in your first year of inspection and about at the 11th month mark. It's nice to do another pre-warranty inspection where you hire an Alberta home inspector. They go through the entire property. This catches defects that only show after 4 seasons have passed. So the house has to go through that entire cycle, see how it does with attic rain, condensation, how does the windows hold up for insulation. There's so many things around the home that you want to account for, how are the HVAC units running. And all of this gets caught over that 4 season cycle. Cracks in foundation that happens as the home is settling into the soil around it, because of course all of that was dug up, and so now the whole grading is going to settle in. The driveway often appears first after the freeze and thaw cycle, so extreme temperature changes. Definitely do not put salt, please, on your concrete steps and driveway. I've seen so many people do that, and that is the fastest way to get cracks on that material. Plumbing and HVAC issues emerge with seasonal issues, the seasonal use, roof and envelope problems. So that is essentially the roof is the top, the envelopes, the entire covering in the side of your home becomes visible after a full winter. So if there's any seepage of the snow going through behind the siding, if there's cracks, how is the parging holding up? There's really so much. You want to capture all of this, then you submit all the claims at least 5 days before the 12-month mark. And then after that window closes, defects becomes your cost to fix. Now, pre-delivery inspection, what you want to check. So interior surfaces, all the walls. So you want to check nail pops, cracks, paint coverage, especially where the staircase meets the paint. If the home is, especially in Alberta, if it's too dry, you're going to get either the home settling or that paint's going to start cracking between where the door meets the drywall. Flooring, scratches, gap, unleveled sections. In ceilings, you get cracks, paint, texture inconsistencies. And for the tiles, chips, ground gaps, loose sections. Door windows, I'm not going to read through all of this, of course. You can pause this and read through it. There's a lot of details on here, but essentially you want to look at doors and windows. You want to look at the kitchen and bathroom. You want to look at the mechanical electrical units, make sure all the wiring was done correctly. Make sure your HVAC units, your vents. I've sometimes seen them run vents into the attic that is supposed to exit to outside the house, but that vent is just hanging loose and venting all the air into the attic. Absolutely terrible. exterior and structure, finishes and contract. One of the biggest problems why we see problems in new construction is because each thing is handled by a different tradesperson. And if the on-site supervisor is not on top of it at all times, things can get lost in communication between the different tradespeople because one tradesperson is not going to look at what the next tradesperson did or did not do in that area. And they just purely focus on what they are supposed to do and get out of there. But then what you end up with is essentially the bathroom rough-ins in the basement being 2 centimeters away from the HVAC unit. And now guess what? When in the future you go to put a bathroom in there, there is no way you can actually put a drywall and put a proper bathroom in there. And now you're breaking your concrete and you have to move everything. So massive issues to look out for. Understanding your warranty rights. Definitely go to the Alberta Home Warranty, read into all the details, and try and understand how everything works. At what stage, what can you catch? For the 1 year, it's labor and materials, so essentially defects in workmanship, materials. This is the most common category. 2 years is all your plumbing, electricals. This is my favorite because this is all the systems of the home, HVAC and the gas, any issues that essentially emerge after 2 years, 2 whole seasons, this is likely going to show up here. 5 years is the building envelope, so everything to do with roofing, exterior cladding, windows and doors, critical in Calgary winters. And then finally, your 10 years, this is major structural, so load bearing components, foundation, structural systems, the highest coverage tier. These are big ticket items, and absolutely do your due diligence because guess what? The builder is not going to be proactive. They are the last ones that are going to actually reach out and ask you if there's any issues. It is up to you, and it falls completely on the buyer to identify all these issues, do their due diligence, and file the claims in time. Because if you pass those timelines, guess what? Now nobody is obligated to fix anything. Warranty claims. This is what buyers get wrong. So the warranty is actually only useful if you use it correctly. Mistake. Waiting for the builder to notice, like I was saying before. Verbal only reports to the builder, just giving a call to the builder and telling them we will call versus filing actual documentation and written proof. Missing the claim deadlines, very important. Do not miss those deadlines. Accepting we'll get to it delays. So just taking what the builder says as we will get to it versus without giving you any promised repair deadlines and dates and booking appointments for when the repair person is actually going to come in. Because if they say we'll get to it, guess what? They have a lot of other things they need to get to, and you'll just be one of them. And then finally, the mistake of not knowing the deposit protection. So this is another one that most buyers I see do not know about. So Alberta's completion insurance covers future deposits of up to $100K if the builder becomes insolvent before possession. So especially when you're going with smaller builders, this is something you need to know about because guess what? You go to that construction site, the construction is shut down and they just disappear. And this is something you need to know about to protect your deposit. So many buyers don't know that this protection exists. Verify that your builder has it before signing. Mistake number 7, getting ambushed by closing costs. Thinking that the entire cost that you agree on for the home during the pre-sale is everything you're going to pay. In fact, closing costs and bills regularly escalate from original contract estimate. Many buyers actually see their number just days before possession. So these are some of the things you want to account for. You have GST, you have gas, electricity meter hookup fees, property tax adjustments, new home warranty registration, legal fees, title insurance, development, education, offsite levies. And this is very important because Calgary has seen dramatic increases in levies to communities in recent times. Deposit verification, home insurance, moving costs. Moving costs is already up to 10 to 30,000 because some of the things that you think are not a big deal are going to be the biggest ticket items and are almost never in new construction. Window coverings are extremely expensive. Do not underestimate window coverings. You are responsible for figuring out the fencing with your neighbor or yourself, especially if you're buying a detached or a duplex home. And then finally, landscaping. So putting sod in your backyard. If you haven't gotten a landscaping credit from the builder, that's going to be another big ticket item you're looking at. So for example, if you think you're purchasing a 600,000 home with the GST, closing costs, moving costs, you're actually purchasing a 662,000 home. That is the true cost of that place. Mistake number 8, overspending at the design studio. So why the design center is designed to upsell you. You just signed a major contract. You're emotionally invested. You're getting all hyped up. You're very, very happy. And you can't wait to customize that home that you did. And the design home is built specifically to show you all those beautiful options. And the time pressure is real. You'll notice those timelines that they put on you to pick your materials is very, very short. And there's a reason for that, because that's when you can make those impulse decisions. So everything is displayed at its best. Standard finishes look plain next to upgrades. Everything's very intentional, just like how you have supermarket design, where it's like everything that's on the top shelf versus middle shelf versus low shelf, what they put at the aisles. A show home and design center goes through that exact same psychological trap to get the buyers to upgrade through those impulse decisions. Sales staff are skilled at anchoring to high-end options first, because of course you look at that high-end thing and then they show you something else that's cheaper. Are you really going to go for it? It's only $50 a month on your mortgage. That's how they play it. So 50 more here, 10 more there, 30 more here, and then all of a sudden you're paying another $1,000 more on your mortgage every month. So average Calgary buyers spend 15 to 40K above their actual intended. So above, this is not total budget. This is above what they originally planned to spend during their budget, during their design session. How do you stay in control? Set a hard budget ceiling before you go in. Prioritize structural upgrades. That's where the payoffs are going to be. That's where the resale value is going to be. Cosmetic, what do you want to prioritize? You want to prioritize the kitchen, you want to prioritize the bathroom. That's what people care about. Those accent walls, you can do it. You can upgrade those anytime. Don't upgrade what you'll replace anyway. So for example, kitchen appliances usually will last 3 to 5 years before you upgrade them. Spending $8,000 on built-in appliances may not really be worth it right now. Knowing the actual cost to upgrade post-build. Get 2 or 3 contractor quotes. So for example, a lot of people, they try to do either a finished basement suite or they try to do a garage with the builder, but you're actually paying about 30 to 50% more when you get a builder to do it versus you just get a contractor in after. And I have a lot of references for great, great contractors in the city now. So I would absolutely love to pass on all of that references and knowledge to you if we work together. And that way you're saving yourself a lot of money and not having to just give it to the builder just because you want it there day one. Now, mistake number 9, buying the home without researching the community. This is extremely important. So some of the things you want to look into when you're getting into a new community is school catchment zone. So you want to understand how far does a kid need to go? Are there even buses available? Do you need to drop them off to a drop-off point? Because remember, most new communities, it takes anywhere between 5, 6, 7 years for a new school to actually come to that community, from all the time for the gets the government permits, the construction, and actually running and opening. Offsite levies. So Calgary levies have actually risen by 100% since 2011, and these continue to change, of course. So these are embedded into the builder cost. So that defines the comparative affordability of one community versus surrounding communities. Then you have community association fees. So some communities like lake communities and master plan HOAs are going to carry an ongoing fee to maintain that community. On the low end, you're going to look at something like $300 an entire year, which is totally fine. But certain high-end communities, especially like Mahogany, for example, they charge you about $1,000 and $1,200, depending on the size of your home, to essentially access all the amenities. So that's an additional ongoing continued cost you need to account for. Transit and commute reality. Many outer communities are not yet on the transit routes, and you have to plan for car dependency the entire time. Calculate your true commute to workplace, not just distance. Don't just think it is X amount of kilometers. See what roads are actually available, how far you're from any of the highways, from Deerfoot, from Stony Trail, from McLeod Trail, depending on which one you need to use, and depending on which one's good for your lifestyle. If you need to go to Costco or Walmart, you have to account for all of those in advance. Phase build out timeline. So moving into phase one means years of adjacent construction research, the community master plan how many phases, expected timeline, where the road amenities are planned. And then the last thing is condo oversupply risk. So in Calgary's current market, new condo townhome inventory is at a supply glut right now. Buyers reselling into new communities compete directly with these new builds, which, of course, the builder is always going to win in those scenarios. And then finally, mistake number 10 is trusting the floor plan, the brochure, and the verbal promises made to you by the builder. Everything looks amazing when you first walk into that show home, and until things are fully signed and you have a firm deal, everything looks amazing. It's always trying to sell you that dream. And then once you're locked in and then you start facing issues, that's when you're going to have some problems. So if it's not in the purchase contract, it does not legally exist. Square footage misrepresentation. Builders and developers routinely include balconies, exterior wall measurements, or any other thing that increases their square footage by a little bit. The material substitution trap. So most builders, again, replace materials along the way based on and protect themselves and have the ability to do that. So you need to have that negotiated into your contract. Brochure versus contract discrepancy. A buyer sees French doors with decorative window slats in a brochure, and then they pay that upgraded fee. At possession, they get a plain glass French door. Those slats cost extra and weren't priced in. So again, extremely important to specify every single part of the home, every single detail, clarify what you're actually getting, what you're paying for, and if there is visual brochures or marketing materials that you're making your decision based off, it is extremely important to account for all of that. And then now, part 3, final. This is extremely short, just to wrap things up, where the Calgary market is right now and what's unique about buying new construction. So right now, record housing starts in Calgary and Edmonton. So Calgary is completely a building city right now, which allows you a lot of negotiation power because those builders are at a time when the demand has completely changed from the time they started that construction. And we've been able to acquire significant deals for builders, for buyers right now. In fact, the latest deal, we got about $80,000 off their original listed price. Townhome oversupply emerging. So a glut of new townhome inventory is building up. Unsold townhomes have topped 1,000 units. So this is something you need to know if you're buying townhomes. This gives buyer a lot of negotiating power. Buyers are market is in buyers market shift is happening in condos. The Calgary condo market is shifting from a seller's territory to a balanced buyer friendly. More leverage is available on price, upgrades, and closing costs than it was back in 2022. Prices at a new premium tier. So during 2023 to 2025, the share of newly built townhomes was priced at $500,000, which jumped from 40% to 72%. So there's a lot of premium style construction is happening in townhomes, especially in the West, Northwest. And they're just trying to capture a different market because now there's just an oversupply of general townhomes available. Tariff risk to building costs. If you are going in for a pre-sale, right now the world is in a complete turmoil. Everything is extremely unpredictable and things are constantly changing between the man down south and his discussions with what's happening in Canada together with the war and everything. So you have to realize construction costs can change on your timeline. And now more than ever, it's important to understand how that affects your contract, how that affects your possession, and what your end cost is going to be. And then finally, population growth is slowing. Alberta saw the fastest provincial population growth in Canada from 2022 to 2024. That growth has moderated. Demand from interprovincial migration remains. In fact, we are the only province right now that has a growing population across all of Canada. So that still remains, but the frenzied pace has normalized. And now finally, this sums up all the points you need to account for before you even consider pre-construction, understanding the process of pre-construction, knowing your risks, how to mitigate them, how to protect yourself. And I would absolutely love to not just help you through this process, but leverage all my relationships with everybody that I know on the builder side advise you which builder you should go for versus which you should probably avoid with a 10-foot pole, and what risks you face in different parts, different communities, because they're not all built the same. And so definitely reach out. I will love to have that call with you. Just scan the QR code right here on the screen. It's super easy a process. You fill that form. I'd love to have that chat with you, understand potentially is pre-sale maybe even a good fit for you, depending on what you're looking for. Even for quick possession homes, there's so much inventory available. I have spreadsheets filled with potential quick possessions. So depending on the price points and what property types you're looking for, we can easily find you a match and leverage the relationships that we have with these builders. I have almost never paid at list price or above list price. That's what surprises me. A lot of people walk into the builder show home and think they have to pay the price that the builder is asking, or maybe they get a 5,000, 10,000 discount and they think that's a lot. But we regularly get 40, 50, $80,000 off those listed prices. So I would absolutely love to do that for you and negotiate the best upgrades, fixes, and things. And then also leverage all my contacts in the industry, from contractors to um, inspectors, for checking out the home and preparing a detailed list of everything that we should get fixed by possession, protect you every step of the way. And it's just what I love doing. And I hope you will reach out, and I hope I have an opportunity to help you through this process. Thanks again for staying tuned till the end. It was a very, very long video, but I hope you can understand why all that information can be extremely crucial and save you tens and thousands of dollars. So if you are looking for pre-construction, definitely reach out. I have a lot of other guides in the description, and plus I'll put the QR codes right here on the screen. And you can watch some of my other videos where we do pre-construction tours, go through all the options available in different communities right now, together with market reports, understand what the market dynamics are, and then together we can help you achieve success in the Calgary real estate market. Till next time, take care. Goodbye.